Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be our monthly ASIC pricing update video. This is going to be for November 2025. In this series, what we're doing, we were typically looking for deals. We were looking for price fluctuations. Realistically, we're at a transition point here in the market where things are looking pretty iffy, right? There is a much higher possibility that this thing could be over. So realistically, what I'm looking for specifically right now are any cracks. We're looking for any extreme price fluctuations because we know how a lot of the ASIC pricing works, right? They're very stubborn with lowering prices. So we're looking for indicators that this thing could be over and that the manufacturers could potentially think this thing is also over, meaning a crazy price swing down, any fire sales. That's where the focus, at least probably these next few months, is going to be, because that's going to give us some more insight into what could potentially happen beyond that. Okay, so if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So we'll go over just a quick little snapshot of the market. Again, this is November 21st, 2025. We did actually skip last month. We didn't do one for October because there were zero changes in the price, right? Things were kind of up. Market was still kind of iffy though. Currently though, with this downtrend, there has been some pretty good fluctuations in the price, and actually some of the script ASICs, which is one of the bigger focuses, there's been a pretty good price dump, right? As well as one specific ASIC, which is a little bit concerning. We'll talk about that one here in a second. But overall price action, the reason we're so bearish is because of the price. BTC is down to 84,000. Early this morning, it did wick to 80,000. Okay, that's a big ass drop. Okay, so that's more along the lines of what we're eventually expecting. We had been talking that it was so odd that we haven't seen like a 30+% correction. Well, here it is, and this one feels different because of the timing, right? So we've seen these kind of corrections in the past. You can go through the charts or whatever. Specific to this one, though, why sentiment is at extremely low levels is because of the timing of this thing. Why? Because typically this is potentially where we could have topped already, right? There's a lot of, not to say rumor mills, but it looks like there's a good potential that that early October price of 125, 126K could have potentially been the top. Is it? Is it not? It's too early to say, but again, looking at the data, starting to look more and more convincing as the time goes on, right? Realistically, we won't really know until it's a wrap. We're looking at things, though. There are a lot of deviations as to why we still think there is room for things to grow, whether it's in the next few weeks, whether in the next few months, or whether it's the next few quarters. It's really hard to say, right? We won't really know really for another month or so, right? So that's one big caveat here. Yes, we're going over prices. Yes, we're looking for deals. Just understand why you're getting into that ASIC and the potential risk here, right? Especially with the altcoin ASICs. We're really going to only focus on two ASICs here, just script ASICs and BTC ASICs, because realistically, right now, that's the only thing that makes sense. Because of the extreme volatility, it does not make sense to go into anything kind of riskier than that, right? Just because prices have already tanked so much, it's potential they could take more. Like, we need a lot more confirmation to really do anything other than those. Okay, so overall sentiment is extremely low. We are definitely at a very pivotal point where anything can happen. Okay, we're currently this low. We're heading into a holiday week where we know liquidity is also low, volume is also low, meaning there can be even more room for manipulation, because during those times it doesn't take as much liquidity or as much cash or as many whales to really have drastic effects on the price in either direction, right? Like, it wouldn't be surprising to see us to go down to 77 or up to 91, 93. Like, at this point, I kind of wouldn't be surprised either way, right? Realistically, what I want to look for is the effects after that, right? Sometime like mid-December. I think by mid-December, it'll be pretty concrete, right? For me, at least. I've done that video, so I'm not going to go too much deeper into this. I have my reasons as to why I think we still have room in this market, but just understand the game of probabilities, right? For me, it's pretty much a go that this is not going to end at the end of this month. Let's say the next month, let's say we do get bullish momentum, like, okay, there's a chance we could peak in December. To me, that's kind of out of the window, There is definitely the possibility that we already have peaked, or there's a possibility that we have another run sometime in 2026, whether it's right at the end of December things start and it lasts about a month, or it doesn't start until the second half. It doesn't start until Jerome Powell gets the boot and Trump puts his person in and we get interest rate drop. Again, there's a whole bunch of theories with it, and in reality we'll have a lot more clarity in the next like 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so at this point that is definitely something you have to consider, right? So long spiel over, let's kind of get to it. Looking at individual prices, we already talked about Bitcoin. The other one we want to look at is Doge. Okay, this is also concerning that we're at yearly lows. Okay, it is down under 14 cents, which is obviously going to affect the profits of those script ASICs. Okay, so understand that more things can go. And right, just because like, yes, it's lower than what it has been, that doesn't mean it can't go lower, right? Again, we hovered at anywhere from like 5 to 7 cents for the longest time. Are we heading down in that direction again? Potentially. Is this one that could have topped in that November, December pump of last year? Also potentially, right? It is one that actually did have a decent pump. Some of the coins did, some of them didn't. Most were up during that time. But the significance of the pump did kind of vary between the coins. Okay. The other big mover obviously has been Zcash. It is currently on a little downslope. It's been extremely up and down. Really rapid movements, both to the upside and downside these past few months. And it's one that is going to actually be extremely important, right? This is definitely one that has been running abnormally to the market, right? It's been kind of literally been doing its own thing, right? It didn't really care what BTC was doing, what the market was doing, what the market sentiment was doing. It's been going up, it's been going down aggressively, right? It's crazy because it ran up so hard, so fast. And it's one because it ran up so quickly, it can also drop extremely quickly. And if this one were to drop back down, let's say not even just like 470, because they hit that not too long ago, could drop down to like freaking $200 or under, and if it does, that would definitely signal something massive, right? Just because, again, this has been one of the few narratives that's still kind of playing out, right? A lot of the alts are still kind of like hanging. If they do get a massive capitulation, though, it can really, really affect things. Okay, so this is one we're definitely keeping an eye on. In terms of the proof of work world, we're talking about it because of the Z15s. We know that the bitmain batches are going to come out until August. So this is one for those that have had it. The longer this thing pumps and stays up, the better it is for them, right? So kudos to you guys who have those things. As far as overall mining profitability goes, this is where it gets rough, right? So as we saw in the last update we did, the king are those Z15s. Okay, so something kind of unusual. The rest is the typical script and BTC ASICs. We do have the iceriver AE3 up here. This is one that eventually when it comes out, probably going to change pretty drastically. It's currently at 17 bucks a day. But again, those things haven't hit the network yet, so that's why there's going to be a network effect with that. As we go down the list, what is kind of concerning, again, some of the more popular ones, a lot of these still haven't been released, right? They have the L11s, L11 Hydros, GG2 Pluses, etc., etc. The main ones we want to probably focus on would be like the L9s, just because of the current deal with those, and currently at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, the 16 gigahash unit, about $4 a day. Okay, so not extremely great, right? Especially considering the price point, right? This is the big thing you have to factor in is, do these price points make sense with the profitability? No. Okay, so this is the factors that if things are on a downtrend, we don't necessarily have a peak anytime soon, there is potential for prices to drop significantly lower. Okay, so they've already gone down a good chunk, right? What hasn't gone down are the prices of the next gen units, right? We do know the L11 is going to be coming out somewhat soon now, right? Initially it seemed pretty far off, but now that batch is going to be in January. It still is extremely overpriced. You can essentially get two L9s for the price of L11. Chances are, if we're still on this trend by that time, it's probably going to go down. Will the L9s go down more significantly? It's really hard to say, right? It's going to be dependent on the market where we go from here. If you're interested in any ASIC, whether it's the L9, S21s, anything, just you gotta start thinking in terms of the bear market, right? Even if, whether we already peaked or it's coming, you have to, again, this game is long term. Okay, so again, regardless if you think we peaked or not, if you're going to be mining with this thing, you want to be getting a year and a half, 2 years plus out of it. We're definitely going to be in a bear market sometime between now and then. Okay, so you should be factoring in that already ahead of time. Okay, so there's different trains of thought. With an altcoin ASIC, you want to factor that in. You're looking at yield, etc., etc. With Bitcoin mining, and realistically, that is currently probably one of the more appealing ones, mainly because, again, it's a mentality thing. You're not going to get rich off of those. You're not going to get rich off of L9 either. It's more along the concept of a way to DCA with benefits, right? Being able to expense the hardware, expense your electric. Again, there's tax benefits with that, and that would be the reason there, right? Even though profitability isn't great, chances are you're probably just going to end up being break even. But again, it's like break even with benefits, right? And most people who are going to be doing BTC ASIC mining, you're not necessarily looking at fiat profitability, you're looking at yield, and it's specifically pre-halving yield prior to the next halving, right? So even though, yes, we may hit a bear market, yes, prices may go down a bit more, what you're eyeing is the yield currently right now, pre-halving, just like we mentioned this previous bear market, right? A lot of people were waiting like, oh, I'm going to wait until after the halving and see. The best time to get in was prior to the halving when the yield was double what it was after. Okay, so just a lot of things going on there. Realistically, probably should do a video because there probably are going to be a lot of changes with Bitcoin mining this coming bear market that we didn't see in the past. We're already seeing kind of glimpses of it there, right? But that'll be a whole nother thing. We're getting way off track. Let's get to these prices. I do want to highlight again, we're looking for extreme price drops, extreme price fluctuations that kind of are looking like panic selling. Okay, so a lot of these still haven't been updated. A lot of these still don't make sense. We're going to highlight, for example, bitmain's Caspa ASIC, the KS7, $6,000. It does not make sense, right? We saw a price drop with the iceriver KS7 to kind of adjust with the profitability. We haven't seen a drop here, mainly because of the profitability. Again, when we look at the profitability of this thing, it is horrendous considering the price tag, right? It's significantly, now we can say it's significantly more expensive than even like a L9 or S21 XP, and it's making less, right? So currently, again, at a 10 kilowatt hour, the 40 terahash model is making $1.31 a day currently, okay? So that price point, again, doesn't make sense. Arguably, even this one. I mean, again, this one for sure is definitely due for a price drop. So we want to see how extreme that price drop is. Is iceriver going to drop yet again? Because I'm sure these things are not selling very well at all based off of the profitability. So these are the types of things we want to keep our eye on, because if we see any major significant drops out of nowhere, there's kind of not a good look, right? And again, like we mentioned in the beginning of the video, we're kind of looking for any signs from the ASIC manufacturers that they also potentially think this thing is over. Again, we have special insight as miners looking on the back end to see not only price action and see what's going on there. We obviously know the sentiment there, but we're going to have insight from these manufacturers that a lot of these are OGs. They're people who've been in the space. They're the people creating the back end, if they're also panicking as well. Because if they believe the bear market is here and that it's done, they're going to want to fire sell to get as much inventory out at these elevated prices if alts drop another 50% and another 50% on top of that, and et cetera, right? So that's definitely insight we want to follow. So I'm going to be following prices extremely closely. We may do updates if we do see any extreme drops. We did find one actually that hasn't been represented on a lot of the vendors, the reseller sites. And that is one that has been due for a price drop. What's concerning here, though, is the extremity of the drop. Okay, we know typically bitmain is on the greedy side. We know typically if anybody does do like excessive price drops or reactions, it's their competitors, right? Because they try to beat them on price if they can beat them on the tech. So this one, a very big drop kind of out of nowhere, right? It wasn't something that was gradual, wasn't anything. That's a little bit concerning, right? One of two things: either the E13 has already been ready, which has been speculated, especially for me because of just how outdated the unit seemed in comparison to like the iPolos and the Jazz Miner that never came. But it dropped down to $1,800. Okay, so this thing, still from the resellers, they haven't updated it. It's still at $6,000, right? So it went from $6,000 down to $1,888. That's a pretty extreme drop. Okay, so to the point where, again, it is a little bit concerning, especially because none of their competitors dropped their prices. There's kind of no reason. In reality, the price point does make more sense, though, in terms of the profitability, because this thing probably is not even profitable. We could look it up real quick. It might be break even at best. It is, yeah, the 10-cent kilowatt hour, about 50 cents a day, right? So in terms of that, it makes sense. But again, we know bitmain, if they don't have a big reason to, they're very slow on the drops, right? Like it would have made more sense for them to go down to 3,500, which is still overpriced, arguably. But it would make more sense, and then if that point didn't sell, then go down. But to go from 6K down to 1,800 in one drop without a competitor releasing or a competitor having a massive price drop, it is something that's unusual. Okay, and again, we've been tracking these prices for years now on a monthly basis. Pretty rare to see a drop from bitmain with apparently no reason to go so aggressive. Okay, so that is something that's concerning. In terms of whether or not this is a good deal, for me, it's still honestly no, unless you have like free electric or something, because it's just so inefficient compared to the competition, right? We compare it to some of the others, for example, like the iPolo, like their big boy unit, again, 10 gigahash, which is more than the E11, and it's at only 1,500 watts in comparison to the 2470 from there. Okay, so one key thing here, though, is that once these resellers reflect a new price, chances are this guy will go down, right? Because at this point, it doesn't make sense that it's, what, more than 3 times as much also, okay? And this guy's obviously a lot more efficient. Is it appealing? Is it necessarily something I would consider buying? Honestly, probably not, but it's just interesting to follow the price, right? Especially for such a powerful ASIC. It's only 1,500 watts. There are advantages to it. It is a little bit appealing, but not a whole lot, right? But again, more than anything, what we're following here is just fire sales. Like these kinds of things, again, like we mentioned, are kind of concerning, okay? Let's go on to the next, and this is a biggie, right? This is a cycle low, right? So the L9, the 15 gigahash unit, is down to $4,600 shipped. Okay, so Nhash's price, they have it shipped. It does not include customs or duties. Just understand that if you're ordering from any of these websites, all of them or none of them are currently covering that. So whoever you're going to order from, again, I do have affiliates with Nhash. Whoever you order from, though, whether it's them or not, contact them first through email, through Telegram. Let them know your country. They'll let you know kind of what to expect on that front. Okay, but just also understand, though, it's extremely volatile. A week from now, Trump can throw a shit fit and 200% tariffs, right? That's a big risk. Okay, so just understand that the things could be all kosher. It's going to be this much, and then that happens, and then you're screwed. So if any stores have U.S. stock, U.S. inventory, and the price difference isn't too great, that can make sense. Okay, so like we're going to talk about the bitmain unit or the Bitcoin ASICs here in a second, and we're going to reference Alter Tech, which I do have a reference link for them as well. If you're interested, the advantage with them, though, is they do have inventory in the U.S. So the key thing with them is that you're going to avoid all the tariff bullshit or any risk there, right? So there is potential savings going through an overseas vendor, but you're going with that risk, okay, versus going through with them. It's literally, depending on the unit, you got to check the inventory. A lot of them, they do have stock in-house, though. Okay, so just, again, something huge to factor in. So the 15 gigahash is $4,600. The 16, $4,899. The 17 units are $5,000. Okay, for comparison's sake, because, again, we like to compare to the competition, just to see if maybe there's more wiggle room. So, for example, Miner Bros has it at $4,900. Understand, though, their prices are no longer shipped. Their big thing before was that the price you saw was shipped and duties or whatever. That's not the case anymore, right? So it's $4,900. You got to add like $260 for shipping, and then whatever your fees are after that on top of that. Okay, so again, this is more for reference just because they tend to be on the higher side. And this is the one that everybody likes to shill, so that's why we reference them, right? So again, you want to go better bang for the buck, which I've ordered from them before. That's why I recommend them. Something to consider there, but order from whoever you'd like. So price wise, again, it's kind of in line, right? Overall, you are getting a better deal here, but that is a not bad price. Okay. So the other thing it's affecting, and they're taking their sweet ass time with lowering them further, are the AlphaPex units, right? So the DG1 Lite, which is the DG1, the 11 gigahash unit, it's down to 2649 shipped, which again, these are less efficient. It's 0.31 joules a megahash. Not super appealing considering the profitability. Let's see what it is actually on that guy. A DG1 Lite. 19 cents a day. Okay, and a lot of it just has to do with the efficiency, right? So really something like this, you're going to want to definitely get it hosted. If you're at 8 cents, then you're making $2 a day. Right? At least a little bit better, but again, efficiency is going to be king for the bear market. Okay, if you're planning to buy any ASICs, for me at least, again, unless you're a person who has solar or you have like sub 2 cent power, efficiency is going to be king, right? Because we mentioned over and over, efficiency is longevity, right? That's going to give you the potentially the longest threshold to remain a break even or better, because that's kind of the goal here. We don't want to be at a loss. Because again, we want to plan for the future and what the future may hold, right? Which honestly isn't too bright. Let's continue down the list. So the other one that's been dropping, the DG1 Plus, which this one's been kind of weird because they have it listed down at these prices. They're having their little sale or whatever, and they have it listed out for like 4,000. Miner Bros also has it significantly higher, so there's a significant price difference here with this unit. Obviously, if you're gonna get it, probably rather go here. Again, if it's only a few percent difference, go whoever. But that's a pretty hefty difference there. So it's now down to $3,000, which kind of makes more sense. Again, for me, is it super appealing though? No. For me, it just efficiency is overall king, especially with the new generation coming out. Okay, you don't want to be left behind. Again, unless you're a person who has like 2 cent power, then that's a whole different world. Okay, so factoring that in, but this price has been going down. We'll see if it goes down any further. Next on the list are the Bitcoin units, and we did see significant drops here also. Okay, so the S21 Plus had been hovering. It was at 3,500, then down to 3,000, and now went down to 2,549. Okay, it was actually this past week. I'd been tracking the prices. It actually reached parity with the S21 Pro, right? But heard a lot of issues with the S21 Pro. It's potentially why the price was so in line. The S21 Plus, they were pretty much the same price. It's hard to say which is the superior unit, right? Realistically, based off of the naming moniker, it'd be the S21 Pro. Hard to say what reliability is with these guys. I don't know anybody who's purchased any. If any of you guys have purchased any, you have any success rates, or has it been successful? You've liked it? Let us know in the comments. But price-wise, the 216 unit, 2549 shipped. Okay, so it's done a pretty good drop. For comparison's sake, Altair Tech has it at 3349 for their base unit. So again, a little bit higher, or not a little bit higher, it's actually a pretty good price difference on this guy. Just because, again, this price recently just dropped literally today. Chances are they may update their prices, just because, again, a lot of the price sheets, not only just these vendors, I go through a whole bunch of them. A lot of them updated significant price drops just today. Okay, so understand if the price volatility continues, could go lower, but again, it's one of those risk-reward things. So the S21 XP is down to 4649 shipped from Nhash. For comparison, it is 5,089 from Altair Tech. Okay, so at this point, for that 10% price difference, I would just order it from here to avoid any tariff bullshit or it getting held in customs, just avoiding all that, because this is one that they do have in stock in St. Louis, so this is one that would be ready to go. Okay, so just as a heads up, it is down to $5,000. Okay, and now that we have a lot of info regarding the next gen Bitcoin ASICs, to me, this is one of the more appealing units, right? And actually some of the seal miners, right? But we'll see how reliable those guys end up being, which right now they look pretty good. The other one we mentioned, the S21 Pro, again, it is down to $3,000. Okay, so now at least there is a price difference between the S21 Plus and the S21 Pro. Because before, again, like we mentioned, they're pretty much on parity, but now this guy did dip, and then the S21 Plus did dip further. Okay, so this guy is down to $3,000. Again, for comparison, we didn't pull it up, but it is actually also available from Altair Tech. Another one to consider is just the fact that the S23 is coming out soon. Again, in my head, I had, it's farther down the road. It's in about 4 to 6 weeks. It's going to be shipping. Okay, so it's extremely soon. Chances are, again, this unit is probably going to drop further, right? Because at this price point, it doesn't make sense that it's nearly double of the S21 XP. Yes, it's more efficient. It's 11 joules terahash, but again, going from, is it 12 and a half, 13 and a half to 11, it's not a massive difference like it had been in previous generations. Okay, so this is one you have to kind of break it down. For me, the better bang for the buck at these prices, if the prices stay where they're at, 21 XP is the better bang for the buck, right? So the kind of the wild card in here is going to be the seal miners. Just because the A3 Pro is coming, and if it is in this price range, 12.5 joules of terahash, that's not bad. Okay, so we don't have official shipping dates for this guy. It was supposed to be around this time. I think the A2 Pro is just now starting to ship, or supposed to be shipping here in the coming days. So this guy might be farther down the road, right? Maybe January, maybe later. So just kind of understand that and understand where the market's going to go. Okay, but again, prices have been going down. Will they continue further? It depends on the panic in the market. Okay, so if we continue, which probably this week, my guess is that we will probably continue down, just because, again, there's going to be a lot of people on vacay for the holidays, so that's when the whales and the manipulators like to come out, just because that's when they can affect the market in a greater capacity. Okay, so it's really hard to say. Me personally, you guys know my stance, but even if I were in the market, which arguably it's shifting in that trend, for me, if we are heading into a bear market, once things look better, then yes, hardware does become more appealing at that point versus DCA. Okay, so things are kind of shifting. These are things you got to be aware of, things you got to understand. And for me, overall, what I'm doing is I'm just waiting, right? Waiting realistically, not just next week. I'm fully expecting us to go down potentially. Again, I wouldn't be surprised with either move. And with either move, I still wouldn't necessarily be convinced, right? I want to see a solid move. So, like, for me, the deadline is like mid-December. Mid-December, I will be pretty sure with what's going forward, right? Whether I start to really de-risk, whether we start to continue to add. Again, there's a whole grand scheme of things. We'll do update videos regarding that. But realistically, at this point, you should have a game plan. Like, if you're interested in purchasing ASICs, any hardware, you need to kind of be set with your prediction, right? At this point, it's kind of only going to make sense if you think we're going to have an extended market. It's going to go into Q1, Q2. Obviously, the farther the better, because it gives you more room for profitability. If you're a person who thinks like, yep, October 6th or 5th, whatever it was the peak, then you're definitely going to want to wait, right? And as we've seen, typically the year after the post-halving year, we have a lot of downtrends, right? So even then, the most optimal time may not even be in the coming months, right? So one of those things we're going to track, we're going to follow a lot of variables here. Again, we're throwing a lot of theoretical crap out. We don't really know. We're going to wait till we get more confirmation here in a couple of weeks. All right. Let me know in the comments, guys. What are you guys doing? Are you guys fully done? Which is seems to be the sentiment, probably about like 90-95%. And honestly, it is definitely shifting in that direction. Okay, so me, my personal deadline is going to be that time. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'm out.